Hello, this is Jessica with On a Stack of Books, and today's video is my weekly wrap-up, and it is a perfect rumbly weather, stay indoors, read a book kind of day. So I figured I would get my video done.
Welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this video. Time to dive into the book.
So the last video I talked about this and I had 2 pages left. I did not realize I could have finished it right then. There was a lot of notes in the back that I really thought I still had a chunk. All of this is just notes because this was the True Crime Guilty Pleasures by Makita Brotman. And so the very ending of this leaves you it left me feeling a little bit, I don't know if uncomfortable is the word, but I think it was the intention of the author. But I'm just going to read it word for word. So, a murder is a crash at the intersection of 2 lives, splitting them open at the seams, laying them bare for analysis and speculation. Yet for all this poking and prodding, we remain in the dark, trying to convince ourselves this horrible event is an aberration. We don't want to admit that people who commit murder are just like the rest of us, but there is no rest of us, there's just us. So this whole book, when I read it, was just that ugly side of, people making bad choices, and how I guess that ending made me think, like, how close are you to, such a bad choice? It was, I didn't like how but again, I think that was the author's intention, because it's a true crime. So finished that. And then I picked up Animal Farm. I wanted something short. This is on my 50 before 50. So it is what I thought it was going to be. It is a farm where the animals are being mistreated, and they feel like they're being mistreated, and they decide that they could do a better job, and that the problem is the humans, and so if they can get rid of the humans, then all their problems will be solved. And so it is a satirical, story of how the animals do just that. I will say it's short and it's easy to read, but about halfway through I kind of had to push myself to finish, because you obviously see where it's going, you know what's going to happen, but there was so much gaslighting and uncomfortable you see where it's going, and it's heading down. The ending was interesting, and I'm not upset that I read it. I don't know what I was expecting or thinking, but I can check it off my list. Oddly enough, my daughter saw it and she was like, "Oh, I want to read that. I've been hearing things about that and I want to read it." So it'll be interesting to have her read it and see what she thinks, and we can talk about it. So, and then she also picked up this book of mine. This is my older daughter, and she read it and she liked it. And then she got into watching, there was a 2-season series show based on the book, and she really likes the show. So she wanted me to read it so we could watch it together. I had started to read this about a year ago, and I just, for whatever reason, couldn't get into it. And so I'm listening to it in audio version this time. And because I had already gotten a little chunk of the way in, it was sort of like it gave me a chance to, really understand or because I'm listening to it again for one thing, which I think is easier sometimes, but then also it was not new information. So it's funny. I'm enjoying it. There's a lot of characters, there's a lot happening, but basically you have an angel and a demon, and they have jobs to do. But there was one job in particular where they were supposed to switch these babies, and one is the angel of death. And then the other one is just a normal child. And it is, all these things are going wrong, but it's funny. So without saying too much, but it's very funny. And then, the demon, he has to sort of get ready for the end of the world, but he doesn't want to. He enjoys human things. He enjoys sleeping and eating and drinking, and but he is also appalled and shocked and surprised at what people do and what humans do. And he, being a demon himself, he's like, they do way worse to themselves than anything I could do. And so that hell on earth, the hell that you create in your own mind, in your own life kind of thing, that's where that's his idea. So it's funny. I'm enjoying it. And then we will watch the show together. So I'm working on this one. And then I jumped over for a historical romance because I do enjoy these. This is the Lisa Kleypas, this particular series, the Ravenel family. I've read several of the different characters, and so I know the family. But this is set in 1876. I think it was 1876. In England. Yeah, 1876. Cassandra, she is in her second season to find a husband, and she doesn't like what her choices are. And a family friend decides to, he becomes very interested in her, and he starts to pursue her. He is ridiculously rich. However, he is a self-made businessman. He is rich because he's worked very hard, and that is not desirable in the upper crust. The families that are going out for their season to marry off their daughters, sisters, cousins, family members, they sort of look down upon him. He would be a step down. He would not be something that, they would want her to marry. But she is intrigued by him. And he starts to court her. And in their courtship, the interesting thing about this one is that books play a big part. And so he's very analytical because he's business-minded. And he doesn't understand why she references some books at different points, and he doesn't understand why she would put any importance on a fictional character, or how she could learn any life lessons, or it could be useful of her time to read about people that aren't even real. And she decides that a good book for him would be Around the World in 80 Days. I think that was it. Yeah. By Jules Verne. And so he reads it, but, he's still not sold. He's, it's just, he feels like he can get that down to, a bite-size bit of information, and he's not really impressed. But he does keep trying to court her, and so he ends up reading Jane Austen. She has him read Persuasion. I haven't read that one. And she mentions Cinderella, and then Tom Sawyer's Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer. And so that was fun with the book references. But then in the back, it talks about that Tom Sawyer was first released in Great Britain in 1876, right before it was released in the US. And because first he read Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, it has a little note in here that Mark Twain was competitive or didn't like Jules Verne because he was trying to write a book about a balloon story, or a story about a balloon. And in 1868, Jules Verne published 5 Weeks in a Balloon. So the competition and all of that, apparently they were not friends. And then, not to give any spoilers, but there is a wedding in this book, and the traditional rhyme of something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue was first spoken or read or when it was in a Staffordshire newspaper in October of 1876. And then it does talk about Cinderella, that there was a rewrite to Cinderella in 1697. Apparently, the pumpkin was brought to France from the New World during the Tudor period between 1485 and 1603. And then the first printed, and I'm jumping ahead. The first printed recipe for pumpkin pie dates back to 1675. So I guess in the original story of Cinderella, they don't use a pumpkin to turn into the carriage. And then the last little note in here that I found interesting, her character was very voluptuous, and the men were very attracted to her. She was a very sought after woman, but the women and like her governess, I think, or, the woman that was helping her find, they would always try to get her to curb her eating because she was getting bigger. Her dresses were having to, and she made a comment that she had gained a stone and she was probably going to gain another stone. And I had to look up how much that was, but it is in the back here, but it's 14 pounds. So if you gain a stone, it's 14 pounds. So just fun little interesting things. But this, I always enjoy Lisa Kleypas. I love the historical romance, but it just had a lot of book references, and then it had those little details in the back. So I thought it was fun. So I read that. And then I started my buddy read with Elaine at Cobalt Dragon. We are reading Jurassic Park together. And so we just started, but it starts off with a bang. It's amazing from the get-go. There's a lot of information, but the story itself, you get immediately sucked in. I love the movies, and so I'm just really enjoying this and looking forward to reading this with her. And then she just recently read this, so it's still fresh in her mind, and now she's reading it more to annotate, and so I think we're gonna be able to have some good discussions. I'm gonna lean on her for that because this is my first time. So reading this. And then my daughter and I are still working on Coraline. She really likes this. It's very creepy. It is, we're almost done, and she really wants to finish it because there is some confusing parts. Coraline is this little girl, and she can go through this door into this other space, and there's the other mother and the other father, and it's like it's her flat but different. But there's definitely some really spooky moments, and she is super chill, super unfazed by some weird things that are happening. And that's one of the things that we keep commenting on. We're like, wow, she doesn't seem bothered by that at all. But then as we're getting closer to the end, there's a lot of things with the other mother, and it's sort of hard to tell reality versus where she is, and where's that line of, because it's hazy. It's sort of this make-believe other space, and the other mother seems to be the one in charge of this space. And so at times, even though I'm explaining things and we're kind of going back over, she's still a little bit like, okay, there's a lot happening. So once we finish the book, we will watch the movie, and then maybe we'll come back and reread it, and then maybe it'll help. She's a very visual And so rereading is helpful for her. She likes it, and she really likes to have seen the movie and read it because she pictures it. So we'll probably do that. For my in-person book club, we are reading The 10,000 Doors of January. I just started it. This is like an adult fantasy. And January is the girl's name. So it's the 10,000 doors I think that she's going to go through. So far the writing style is different. And so I'm going to save any judgment for when I get further into it. But I mean, I like it so far, that first chapter, but I just started, so I'm really not going to say anything more than that. So it's been a really good reading week. The weather has just been super rainy and stormy, and we get pockets. I've been able to go out and walk here and there. So for audio miles, my Karen Slaughter book, We Are All Guilty Here, it's really good. I'm still enjoying that. And, you know, big cast of characters. So yeah, I think once we get into the fall, then I can really consistently, you know, get the walks with the reads and everything like that. But the weather has just been so rainy, and like right now it's coming down again. So good weather to be reading inside, nice and cozy. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll be reading.